Hello, everybody, and welcome to Electric City Sentai Denzicaster here on the ECS Network, your weekly look into the wonderful world of Tokusatsu. I'm your host, Mike. This week I am joined by
Sam,
who is here because obviously we are talking about her recent appearance on 8-Star Anime, talking about My Neighbor Totoro. No, that's not what we're doing here. Although that went up last Friday, or not last Friday, but a Friday somewhere back.
I need to go check it out.
Yes. Complete transparency. Obviously, we shoot a bunch of these at one time well in advance. So, as we're recording this, the My Neighbor Totoro episode went up last Friday. So, which you haven't seen yet?
No, I own pretty much most of his collection.
No, I meant your episode.
Oh, the episode. I was about to say Miyazaki. Of course I said it. What?
So, today we are looking at Pretty Guardian Sailor Moon. Once again, we are on episodes 13 and 14, which as I am on the Sailor Moon Wikia page, there's only an episode synopsis for one of them. Anyway,
well, they kind of go together.
A little bit. So, episode 13 is the first appearance of Kunzite. It's the episode tells The Last of the Shintano. I never know how to pronounce that word. It's the Four Kings. The Last of the Four Kings, Kunzite appears. And then episode 14, Usagi is turning into a Yoma. So, long and short of...
AKA a demon.
Yes. So basically, the long and short of what's going on is, in episode 13, it's basically Luna explaining that they need to concentrate on their mission. They need to not concentrate so much about getting... Sailor Venus, or in this case, Princess Sailor Venus, on their side. Meanwhile, poor Motoki, the clerk at the karaoke bar, is terribly depressed when he calls up Mamoru because his turtle is gone. The turtle has gone AWOL during a cleaning incident. So they find the stereotypical spooky house somewhere in the neighborhood, but find that there's a guy there named Shin who has the turtle, gives it back, but Shin has lost his memory. And throughout the episode, it's essentially Usagi and Mamoru trying to help this young man get his memory back, part because Usagi is this naive, well-meaning, wanting to do well soul, whereas Mamoru feels some sort of connection to the guy, and the guy seems to feel a connection to the two of them, says, I feel like I know you. So, what do you think about the episode where the turtle goes AWOL?
Obviously, I thought it was at least very interesting, because when it finally ended, I was like, was that it? That can't be it. That's a commercial break, right? But apparently that was the end of the episode. I wasn't ready for it to end, but... Going back over his overview, there really not much happened, I guess. I don't know. Just...
It really feels like the entire episode is set up for 14. This is part one of a two-parter, basically.
Yeah.
The young man in the house is an amnesiac who we find out by the end of the episode is Kunzite, that Queen Beryl is reawakening. Yes?
Before episode 14, on episode 13, she's... The impression I got where Queen Beryl was waking up this dude, she still gives off the great boss vibe. She's like, oh, you failed, no worries, you're still working in my name, cool. And she's like, I don't really want to wake up this guy, but before seeing episode 14, it's like, oh, she's like, he's on retirement, I don't want to bother him.
Mm.
But later we actually see in episode 14, she's like, nah, he's a contender, he's a rival, he might take my...
Yeah, we get a little more insight on Kunzite in episode 14, but... basically, the first hint that something here is going to go awry is Kunzite uses locks of his hair essentially to possess victims, at this point young women, to try and turn them into Yoma. And he succeeds in episode 13 while Sailor Moon is able to essentially separate the Yoma from the human and just seal away the Yoma. But in the process, she herself winds up getting hit by this attack and could become or is becoming a Yoma. As Tuxedo Mask gets there just in the nick of time to watch it happen and do nothing about it.
Freaking damsel in distress. So,
I don't get that vibe out of him so much in this show.
Not
It's just
yet.
more that he's useless.
Yeah. So far, he's useless in the show, but I was telling Mike earlier from the manga, I always say it wrong, an anime. Like, I loved him in the whatever just because he was pretty, but I always got fed up with him. Thank you. I got fed up with him because he was always getting in trouble. He was always being turned over to the other side and causing distress. And it's just like role reversal. Yes, I get it. But at the same time, I'm like, dude, come on, step up.
Yeah.
Grow a set?
Yes, do something.
My wife is working in the office beside us, so.
I just felt the need to put that in.
So.
I'm all girl power, but really.
Yeah, girl power, awesome.
But you gotta take care of yourself.
Exactly. Just I can understand you've got amnesia, whatever, but at least be able to defend yourself. You don't need your memory to be able to do that. Oh, I'm in danger. Let me fight back. Instinctual, I would think.
One would think. So in episode 14, which is Usagi is turning into a Yoma, in this particular episode, it starts off with a New Year's celebration that she missed out on the prep of in episode 13.
She's a useless friend.
Which for the record, in 13 is pretty much the only appearance of Mercury, Mars, and Jupiter. Is the cutaway where Usagi's calling them, and they're like, "Why aren't you here helping us?" But in episode 14, they are having their celebration. Final time, we see this montage of karaoke and games and food and so on, and then Usagi passes out. And when she passes out, we find out that while Usagi may be a horrible friend, apparently Luna's a horrible mentor, because she has neglected to inform the other sailor soldiers of, oh, son of a gun, there was this dude with hair, and this thing happened. And so...
There's this dude with hair. I
Yeah.
mean, they walk around by you all the time. What's one more?
And so... the dude with the hair and the thing and and so at that point she kind of explains what happened with Kunzite in episode 13, and all of the soldiers have their own way of trying to help Usagi, with two of them being mostly useless.
Yeah. Well,
and
Jupiter was super useless.
Yeah.
I'm just running angrily through the streets. What? Okay.
Jupiter goes on the hunt for Kunzite in order to find him and kill him, as the closet Klingon that I think she actually is. Whereas Mars is going the spiritual route, trying to use her spiritual powers and know how to track down the Yomas and figure out a way to seal the Yoma in Usagi.
That we can kind of...
Yeah.
That's semi-something.
Whereas the episode actually becomes a focus piece for Mercury, where Mercury, being, the daughter of a doctor, that goes the scientific medical route and eventually manages to track down Usagi after Usagi winds up in Kunzite's evil clutches, takes him on by himself, comes up with a weapon that I don't think she's ever had in any version. She forms this rather badass water sword in order to stop Kunzite's final attack, and then the rest of the scouts show up to the rescue, and it's one of the most anticlimactic endings I've seen in Toku history. So, where basically Sailor Moon just realizes all of her friends are there to help and wakes up and goes, "Oh wait, bad guy, I should probably transform now." So, what are our general thoughts on this pair of episodes?
Well, I thought it was nice that they focused mainly on Mercury this time, because I feel like she hasn't had her own episode since her introduction, basically.
Yeah.
They've done little episodes with the other two, but not her. Like, the episodes themselves were very captivating, but at the end it was just like, well, that was very anticlimactic. What happened? Like, in episode 13, when Sailor Moon defeats the human, saves the girl, I was like, well, that was it? Okay. And then in episode 14, Sailor Moon saves herself by just waking up from a nap going, oh, where am I? Oh, bad guy. Must attack.
Yes.
Just...
I don't know if in literary history or in fandoms or whatnot there is such a thing as a klutzy Mary Sue, but it certainly kind of feels like that's what they do with Sailor Moon to a point, because there are a lot of episodes where it takes the team to find her, but it doesn't take them to save her. Which...
moral support?
Yeah. It feels almost as if the rest of the team in certain points is completely superfluous. Like, they wouldn't be needed. The episode where they had to coordinate their attacks in time with a song, as goofy as the concept was...
Yes, I was remembering that one too.
There had to be a team.
Mm-hmm.
So it makes sense. But episodes like this kind of make you sit there, and it's almost like Superman syndrome. If you have Superman, why do you need the rest of the Justice League? That's always been one of the contentions that writers have had for years. It's, you've got Superman, what do you need the rest of them for?
Because everybody knows Superman's weakness and use it against him.
Right.
Not.
But in this instance, if you have Sailor Moon, the analogy kind of holds. If you have Sailor Moon, what do you need the rest of them for? And episode 14 felt like that to a point. But I feel like I have not watched this show all the way through in a really long time. So I feel as if it's like, okay, this is the beginning of an arc. Because, like you said, the end of 13 felt like... It felt like you were in the middle of a commercial break. It didn't feel like the end of an episode. There was like this massive to be continued sticker at the end of the episode. And this one maybe had that to a point because it felt too easy. It didn't feel earned. So I feel like there's more to come with this story and this arc. I know they do a couple of full-on arcs through the series.
Well, plus this was, what's his name? The new evil dude.
Kunzite.
His first big appearance.
Mm-hmm.
So he's got to have a comeback. He's got to top himself.
Right. So there's got to be something.
Yeah.
Anything out of this pair episodes you just didn't care for?
How casual, like they have secret identities for God's sake, and how casual they say each other's real names in front of Tuxedo Mask, who everybody keeps trying to say, he's an enemy, stay away from him, beware of him. Oh, hey, here's my full name, here's my address.
Yeah. Everything short of walking up to him with a business card.
Yeah.
So, yeah, there's that. They're a little casual and flip it with the secret identity bit at this point in the show. Or saying it right in front of the bad guys. That kind of thing. Not that I think the bad guys actually need it, because they probably already know. I think in most versions of the show, the bad guys figure out who they are sooner or later, and it's usually sooner. So there's that. I really found it odd. The only part that I didn't like was, out of these two episodes, really, I really didn't like, was the end of episode 14, where it's Sailor Moon just wakes up and beats the bad guy. It's like, oh, that was a nice snap. Oh, crap, bad guy. So that just felt a little awkward, because the rest of the team, Mercury gets her butt kicked by Kunzite, basically. The other two, so Jupiter and Mars, show up and get Kunzite off of her. And so I think I would have preferred seeing the three of them hold him off and drive him off, and have Sailor Moon wake up at the end of the episode and not necessarily save herself. I could have done without that part.
Yeah.
So
at least do something besides show up and then fall down.
Yeah.
Which is basically what happened.
Mm-hmm. So what are we looking forward to? I think we've kind of talked about what we liked. So what are we looking forward to out of this going forward?
Oh, we did notice on scene they actually had fighting moves in episode 13 for Will. Hey.
Yes.
There was an actual kick.
You missed it. Sailor Moon did a jumping side kick.
Yeah.
So, which I mean, that I've seen different versions. Frankly, I don't think in any of them do you actually see too much. Whether it's in the, I've never read the manga. I've seen Crystal. I've seen a lot of the original anime series. In no version do you really see the scouts, outside of maybe Jupiter, get physical in combat. But in this case, I think they're finally kind of realizing, oh wait, we're the same company that makes Super Sentai and Kamen Rider and all these other very martial arts themey shows, and we have all these coordinators and choreographers and stunt actors. Maybe we should start using them. So maybe there's that to a point, but yeah, there was actually a kick one. Baby steps, you know. But there was something.
Still lots of dancing pirouettes, twirls.
But you know, they weren't as contrived this time. Like, one of them is Sailor Moon doing backflips and cartwheels, fleeing a bad guy. That's actually a really common trope in Super Sentai and Power Rangers. Yes. So there's that. And kind of the pirouette entrances for Jupiter and Mars were distractions for Kunzite to help keep him away from Mercury in 14. So, not bad. So, what are we looking forward to? What do you want to see going down the road? Because as our friend Josh from Chopsaki Cinema likes to say, we bought the ticket, we're taking the ride. So,
I want to see what's going on with Queen Beryl, just from the hints that you gave me to get me interested in reading this arc, and see what's going on with her, and the fact that she did not want to wake up this dude, but she was driven into a corner, and now she's got him, and I feel like she's kind of regretting it.
Yeah, especially at the end of 14. That's what I'm looking forward to, is Kunzite is perhaps the least subtle rival bad guy to show up in a Toku show in a really long time, because he shows up and basically tells Queen Beryl, why don't you take a break? You look tired. I can do this. Let me take care of waking up the great evil. I've got it. You go, there's a couch over there somewhere offset. Go take a load off. So, yeah, that's what I'm really interested in seeing going forward, because that's going to be a lot of fun.
And then it just popped up in my head, like, we've barely scratched the surface of this series. You said there's, what, like 40 to 50 episodes?
I think it's like almost a 48-episode series, so we are now more than a third, or more than a quarter through.
But we've already gotten rid of 2 of the henchmen. Like, what is she going to do? Is she eventually going to run out, or just pull in more? Or? Yeah,
so we're down 2 of the 4 kings, so to speak. So, yeah, that's going to be an interesting thing to do. So, I know a little bit about that, but it's going to be really fun to watch. So, it's going to be really fun to watch her reaction. So, because I loved your reaction when Mercury just popped up with a water sword suddenly. You're like, wait, what?
Yes.
So.
That was awesome, and then it went away, and I'm like, no! You just did something awesome, and you lost it.
Well, folks, I think that's going to about wrap up this episode. We've talked about episodes 13 and 14. There's more Sailor Moon coming down the pike. Of course, there will also be plenty more of Live Man. We're still watching through Garo, the one who shines. So lots of stuff there. And whenever Josh comes and hangs out, I'm sure there's some Johnny Sacco on the docket too. So stick around. Lots more stuff to come here on Denzicaster in the coming weeks. Until next time, folks, we hope that you've enjoyed the show. Hope you go to cafepress.com/ECS Network, grab yourself a t-shirt, and jump over to our Patreon, patreon.com/ECS Network, and become one of our backers. Until next time around, folks, I'm Mike.
Sam.
And we'll see you on Denzicaster.